Hey there, I'm Matthew Buzzy, and this is Sasha from Asus, and we have for you one of many new announcements out of CES from Asus. This is the Zephyrus Duo 16. Not the first time we've seen a dual-screen Zephyrus laptop, but there is a new size, there is new features, of course, and Sasha's going to walk us through this laptop that he has right there in his hands. Sasha, take it away about the design and what's different about this edition of this laptop.
Sure. All right, let's start with the design. You can see it's actually the same size as the Zephyrus Duo 15 because it's still a 15-inch chassis, but this one is all about screen space. As the name implies, it has a second screen, but obviously people who go for this want as much screen space as possible. So we fit in a 16-inch 16 by 10 panel in there. And as you can see, when I open it up, you can see super slim bezels all around. Oh, there's a reflection of my monitor. So you can see the bottom bezel is basically gone now. There still is a bottom bezel, but it's really hidden when you look at it from the front. So this is a normal angle that you would look at it from when you're using the laptop. You can see, so the ScreenPad Plus, the second screen, it's a half height display, essentially, half height of the main display. It not only folds up like on the Duo 15, but it actually slides back. So you can see it as I open and close the laptop. The second screen slides back and forth, and that closes the gap and brings it closer to the main panel. And then from the front, you don't really see the bottom bezel anymore. So there's only a very thin line between the main screen and the second screen of like 2 or 3 millimeters, which makes them look like a one seamless, super large display, which is really cool for anybody who needs as much screen space as possible. And beyond that, you also get top of the line performance with this one. So the Duo 15 is already really powerful laptop. And at the same time, one of our quietest laptops, because this opens up a lot of airflow as well, right? So the CPU and the GPU are right below the ScreenPad Plus, the second display. So we can pull in fresh air very easily directly into the cooling system to cool CPU and GPU. We can ramp up the TDP and TGP to really high levels. Yeah, so it's a really powerful workstation, and it also gives you a second display for as much screen space as possible.
Yeah, that change in the displays lining up, the bezels lining up like that is small, but that's something that makes a difference. That's like when you have a 2-monitor setup and the screens aren't quite flush versus when you really get the edges. Like, it makes a big difference when the edge to edge is perfect. If you can get your setup right, it looks like one giant screen, which is what you want. So I'm interested to see that in person. We did like the 15 quite a bit. Surprised me how both, as you said, it was, I can attest, pretty quiet for a laptop of that caliber, and pretty light too for a laptop that has a gaming laptop. That usually a reputation for being a bit heftier, and B, with 2 displays, was pretty light. So this
pretty compact. Like if you look at it, so like when you look at this from the side, it's pretty slim considering the performance you get in here. You get a top of the line CPU and GPU, everything maxed out, and this is competing with much bigger and much heavier desktop replacement laptops out there on the market that are pretty chunky, right? So considering that, this is pretty cool. It's like you said, pretty light, pretty slim. And nobody would expect that there's like a second display in a laptop like this. It's still pretty portable.
As far as power, you maybe can't say exactly what's in it at this stage, but updated silicon, updated GPU or CPU.
Yeah, so just like the current Zephyrus Duo 15, it comes with the latest AMD mobile CPU. So latest, the ones that were just announced at CES. This one's going to have the latest one. And the GPU has been bumped up as well, the latest NVIDIA mobile GPU. So there's going to be a nice performance bump from both of them. At the same time, we also bumped up the CPU TDP and GPU TGP. So for the GPU, it's 135 plus 15 for a total of 150 watts. And we are actually going to be able to push this a little bit higher in turbo mode to 165 total. So that's a nice performance bump. And for the CPU, we're able to push it to around 80 watts, 90 watts for CPU only load. So, if you're doing some video editing and the GPU is not used at all, just a little bit, you can actually push the CPU way high and get a lot of nice performance out of it. So how we're able to push the CPU, TDP, and TGP even higher is we improved the cooling system. And one big component of that is liquid metal, which we've been using for years now. And all ROG laptops use liquid metal on the CPUs since 2021. And in 2022, that's not going to change. But we actually push things even higher, or the temperatures even lower, looking at it that way. We've been poking and nudging Thermal Grizzly, who has been creating liquid metal on our laptops and applying liquid metal on our laptops together with us to do something even better, to push temperatures even lower. And so we co-developed a new liquid metal formula that brings CPU temperatures another 5 degrees lower compared to the regular Thermal Grizzly Conductonaut. That's going to be called Conductonaut Extreme. And it's going to be available in retail as well for everybody else to use on their PC parts. But we're the exclusive partner for this, only on our laptops in 2022. And yeah, pretty exciting. Even 5 degrees lower temperatures than regular liquid metal, which already has way better temperatures than any other thermal paste on the market. Memory up to 64 GB DDR5, fully maxed out. 2 Gen 4 SSD slots, and the top configuration for this one, you can actually have it shipped out of the box with 4 terabytes of Gen 4 SSDs in RAID 0. So two terabyte SSDs in RAID 0. Yeah, and crazy fast. I think it's over 10,000 megabytes per second or something read speed. So yeah, crazy fast. The LAN port in the back has been upgraded to 2.5G as well. So that's perfect for anybody who's working on video editing, just like you guys. When you have really large video projects and you're collaborating on them, you have to move those large files over the local network from one person to another, and that's where 2.5G really helps a lot. So for content creators, really cool. The keyboard has been improved as well with much better key travel. So I think you can see that clearly. It has 1.7 millimeter key travel now. It feels like double the key travel compared to the previous generation. It isn't double, but for key travel, like every few extra point something millimeters just makes so much of a difference. And this one feels really nice. It's about the same as all our other Zephyrus keyboards, which are pretty good. Same as the G14, G15, M16. Yeah, the touchpad is a little bit bigger. What's cool is when the ScreenPad Plus slides up, there's a piece of glass here of some black PCB and RGB LEDs that you can customize or just turn off if you don't like it.
Sure.
And yeah, then there is a webcam as well, something that the previous generation did not have. And for the main display, there's 2 panel options that are really interesting because they're both exclusive or brand new, and we're the only ones who have that kind of panel. So the first one is a dual spec panel that we developed together with BOE, one of the biggest panel vendors for laptops. And it allows us to run the panel at 4K, 120 hertz, or switch it to 240 hertz when lowering the resolution to only full HD. So the way we're doing that is essentially the panel can run at 240 hertz, but 4K 240 hertz would be overwhelming for the panel control logic and also the electronics of the panel. So with some trickery, we're basically able to run the pixels at 240 hertz by lowering the resolution. And yeah, that's one of the panels. And the other panels is our Nebula HDR mini LED panel, which has 512 mini LED zones for a really high contrast ratio of 100,000 to 1, which is 100 times more than a typical laptop panel. And you can also get the brightness up to 1100 nits, which is double the brightness you usually get on laptops. Yeah. A cool feature for that one is we have an option to switch all the mini LED zones to just work like a single backlight zone. So when you do that, you lose all the contrast, right? You just have the regular contrast. So yeah. Why did we do that? Well, when you're a content creator and you're working on videos or pictures, you're editing something, if you just change a few pixels, that might be over the threshold, which then determines the brightness for that zone. So what can happen and does happen is once you do that, this part of the screen then becomes brighter or darker. But that changes how that part of the image looks, right? And you want consistency. Yeah. You want consistency, right? Even if the brightness changes, then the color reproduction changes too. So that's a nightmare for content creators, right? So we have that option to just toggle it on and off. It's pretty cool as well for anybody who wants to know how does that work and what difference does it make if I have those 512 zones compared to a regular panel. So you can just toggle the 512 zones on and off essentially, and then see like, okay, this is what it looks like in a game with the 512 zones versus without. Yeah, so 2 really cool, interesting panels on this one.
Not something I would know from looking at it. And of course, if you're less familiar with the Duo line, you can look at the review. We've tested a lot of gaming and non-gaming Duo systems, and you might not be sure what you can do with that second display. So you can go check out, the Zephyrus 15 Duo and see what kind of applications there are. You can drag pretty much any application down to the lower screen, use it as a reference, put your Spotify down there, put your reference when you're playing a game like an FAQ or something down on the bottom, or a checklist or Twitch or something down on the bottom screen. Anything you would use a second display for on a monitor. There are the same uses on a laptop, just at a different form factor. So yeah, check that out. That's out there. Sasha, I think that was a thorough dive on this. We will, of course, check it out for review when it becomes available. So thank you so much for walking us through it now. And stay tuned to PCMag.com for more coverage out of CES 2022. Thanks for watching.